Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision. Hey, you're here with me and Chef JB Brown, co-hosting this great podcast of just helping our veterans out in so many different directions.
Yeah, welcome and good afternoon from sunny downtown Las Vegas. It's going to be a little warm today, about 107 or 108. So, but that's all right. It's a dry heat.
That's right. That's right. Hey, we're coming to you with live from the studio of the Veterans Transition Resource Center, the VTRC, right here. And Brian Colburn in the background pushing buttons, citradio.com, and a whole bunch of things. Our guest today, good friend of mine, Sergeant Major Mark O'Laughlin, book writer of the Validated Leadership book. I want everybody to take this in because it's an easy read, a great read, and a great subject matter. I mean, he sent this book to me a couple of weeks ago, and I'm grateful to have him on the podcast. Mark, how you doing, brother?
I'm outstanding, Aaron. How have you been?
Hey, good.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chef.
Yeah,
very honored to be invited here.
Well,
thanks.
It's our honor, too, to have you. I mean, what a book. God, Country, and Service.
That's right.
Isn't that the way it goes?
That's the way it's always been for me.
Yeah.
Been for me. That's what I was taught.
Hey, Mark, if you could take us back to your early days, why you wanted to join the Marine Corps, talk about that. And then obviously you served, your last duty station was Wounded Warrior Battalion West, and you got to retire from there. Is that correct? And then move on from there.
I did.
And
I'm from originally from Independence, Iowa, a small farming community back there in Northeast Iowa. So once again, 7-day-a-week operation. I was the fifth child of 9. We're all but one of us were 1 year apart. And so my dad was in the 2nd Infantry Division, Korean War for the Army from 1951 to 52 in Korea, wounded twice. So back there in Iowa, Midwest, Eastern Iowa, very patriotic. Kind of grew up with going with my dad to VFWs, American Legions, things like that. Talking about, listening to all the stories about his time in service and other veterans' time in service. I'm a big history buff. I knew I wanted to join the Marine Corps or the military because of my dad. But when I seen the Sands of Iwo Jima by John Wayne, that was it.
That was hook time.
That was it. That was hook time. And I knew I wanted to be a Marine after that. So I joined, enlisted when I was 17. My parents signed the papers. I didn't go till after I graduated high school when I was 18. But I spent my first, did a guaranteed infantry contract. I spent, MCRD San Diego for boot camp, went to the infantry training school at Camp Pendleton. Spent my first year in Marine Barracks, Fallbrook, California, on just the east side of Camp Pendleton for 1 year there. Got transferred to 3rd Battalion, 9th Marines, did a deployment with them. I re-enlisted in the Marine Corps, became a drill instructor. So I was at MCRD San Diego from 86 to 88, drill instructor, senior drill instructor, and transferred to the 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines. Spent another 5 years there, did 3 deployments, including Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Got orders to the School of Infantry West as an instructor, troop handler, then instructor. Got promoted to staff sergeant, orders immediately to 1st Battalion, 1st Marines. Did a deployment with them over the Persian Gulf. Cross-decked over to 2-1, did another deployment to the Persian Gulf. And then I re-enlisted, went back to the drill field. I was a drill instructor, senior drill instructor, instructor at the drill instructor school. And then the war kicked off, got orders right to Camp Pendleton, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, went to Iraq with them, came back, got selected for first sergeant, orders back to 3-1. I did 2 more deployments to Iraq with 3-1, one with Lima Company, the last time with Weapons Company, and then got promoted to sergeant major, transferred to MCRD San Diego again. I was the 2nd Battalion sergeant major. And then that's when I got transferred to the Wounded Warrior Battalion West at Camp Pendleton, where you and I met, Aaron. And I was able to.
I was already retired then, but I was coming in and with Jim Glardy, four-time Purple Heart guy, and just helping out the vets with warrior groups and different things. But it had a chance to meet a lot of sergeant majors that went through Wounded Warrior Battalion West because it was such a awesome place. Go ahead, Sergeant Major.
It was great. It was a great way to round up the career after, I love being an infantryman. I love the high dead little, straight up the middle, 2 up, 1 back, and chime the objective. So I just love being in that environment. And if I couldn't be at that environment in the infantry, I spent the rest of my time at training new recruits, civilians, trying to help them make them into Marines, and then entry level Marines, making them into infantrymen. And then, like I said, I just love being in the infantry. I love the camaraderie, the togetherness, the leadership, and working with people, working with that entry level, working with the more experienced ones, and building that cohesive team. It's they always say it's not about having the perfect team, it's building the best team. And so that's just what was so great about the infantry is being able to build that team, being a platoon sergeant, platoon commander, company gunnery sergeant, a company first sergeant. I only wish I could have went back as a battalion sergeant major, but that was
you already did your duty.
What is in God's plan for me?
Yeah.
No, you know what? Though you came as a sergeant major to Wounded Warrior Battalion West. Obviously, that's not an infantry battalion. That's a battalion of healing wounded, ill, and injured. So, in all your time in the Marine Corps, you got to see how, obviously in infantry battalions, they would send their guys to sick hall and guys would be on limb due, and this whole process, you didn't really get to associate so much with it. But being part of the Wounded Warrior Battalion West, you got to see the medical side of things in a whole different dynamic. And you probably had to shift some of, obviously, being Semper Gumby and adapt and overcome was such a different kind of a perspective from coming from all these infantry battalions and all this, the Marine Corps way of doing life, to now having to adapt to this medical. Hey, only 3% we're going to return to the service again, and 97% are getting out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
How was that adaptation for you? And how did you view that?
So especially in the infantry and going to combat with an infantry battalion, seeing just the phenomenal performance in combat conditions and in combat, seeing Marines perform was just so inspiring. But then when you get to a Wounded Warrior Battalion, where you see the effects of that combat with all those wounds. But what was really revealed there even more at Wounded Warrior Battalion was that indomitable spirit of the human will. You have Marines without legs, without an arm, blinded, concussion injuries.
PTSD.
But their indomitable spirit, they're still United States Marines. They still identify themselves as that, and they still perform that way. It's just remarkable. It's really humbling for you when you've got all your limbs and you got all your faculties, but you see the example that they are setting, even coming through their wounds and overcoming those adversities. It's just totally inspiring, emotionally draining, but just totally inspiring.
Yeah, it definitely was, as being there and going through the process myself and getting out. And what's interesting is, and sad, obviously we lost some guys to suicide. We've lost a bunch to different things, even surgeries to, there's just so many things, but the end result of most of them is that they're going on to something else. They're getting sent out into America. They're going to have another opportunity that you just don't know. But because we were at Wounded Warrior Battalion West, I want to say those connections, just like you and I having this great connection, we get to see some end results. We get to see some progressive results, not necessarily but what is going on in those lives, right? And your life, you wrote this, you wrote this, validated leadership book, and you just completed it. Super exciting for you. Those are things that are still progressing, and you do a lot for Wounded Warrior Project. You're doing the financial piece, helping veterans out. You got so much going on. So I'd love to hear some more of your story. We'll go into that.
Yeah. So tomorrow will be 2 years since I joined the Wounded Warrior Project. So after I retired from the Marine Corps, I helped build a not-for-profit organization called PsychArmor. And what PsychArmor was designed to do when it first started was to teach medical and mental health professionals on how to work with veterans. Because remember, back then at that time, the VA was getting overran with cases of people needing counseling, and they couldn't handle it. So they're farming them out to civilian providers. Well, these civilian providers, some of them had no concept of how to work with a veteran. They had no experience, no connection whatsoever. And, it was proven that a lot of these veteran suicides had seen a mental health provider within weeks of their committing suicide. So where was the disconnect? Why couldn't they make that connection with that veteran and keep him coming back? But the psychologist that started PsychArmor, Marjorie Morrison, she said it's not totally their fault, because if you don't have a connection with the military, you don't know that ways to make that connection. You use your book skills, you use your experience with civilians, but it doesn't always work. That's why it was a 5-day process. I would teach the first 2.5 days. We would go from the Department of Defense all the way down to, say, a Marine fire team. And I would give them a concept of how they think, how they feel, how they would like to be reacted to and asked questions of. They don't want to be, pitied or, feel sympathy for them, but they do expect some empathy. They do expect some understanding. So I would teach that first 2.5 days and let them ask all the questions to me. And then the psychologist, Marjorie, she would handle the next 2.5 days and go into the psychological things. So I worked with them for about 3 years. We got it built up. I finally moved on from that. I started using my GI Bill to go to school. And then, so I got my bachelor's degree. I extended it out, achieved a master's degree in business administration. Wow. So then I thought I was going to make all my big money, so I started doing real estate and mortgage loans and things like that. And, but I'm also a member of a charity organization in San Diego called the Nice Guys, San Diego Nice Guys. And it's our charters for San Diego County. We provide a hand up, not a hand out, to good causes in San Diego County. We also have a subcommittee called the Victory Fund for active duty military and veterans and combat wounded veterans. So I'm always doing that. And I'm currently the president of that organization. So I was always getting pulled back to helping out. I was involved with the VFW, the American Legion, the Elks Lodge, and running their veterans programs. So our good friend of ours, Aaron, retired Colonel Greg Martin, is working for the Wounded Warrior Project, and said, hey, there's these positions you'd be perfect for. Why don't you put in for them? And so I did. Like I said, I kept getting called back to this thing about helping. So I took the position as a financial counselor with the Wounded Warrior Project. And we help, we get cases. The veterans call in. They're a member of the Wounded Warrior Project. They want to receive some financial education. We get them. We have like a 4-month program where we go over their budget and spending plan. We see if they need any type of assistance with credit repair, credit management. We'll take a look at their overall situation. What's their VA rating? The Wounded Warrior Project is an all-around operation. Goes from mental health to warrior talks to warrior rides to outdoor odyssey type things. We have warriors to work. We have a benefits program. We have the financial education program. We're just an overall all-around product. It is a phenomenal organization. It's came a long way since it first started.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So I get them, and all my teammates in the financial education program, we take a look at them, find out what their income is. If they're getting 20%, we ask them, do you feel there's some conditions that might enable you to get a higher VA rating? If yes, we get them over to the benefits section. If they're actively looking for work, we get them with the Warriors to Work program. And then if we get them a job and we get them a raise in their VA rating, helps their financial situation, because we know that also that some of these suicide attempts and the ones that completed their suicides had financial issues, had financial crisis issues. So we want to take that out of the equation if possible. We want to get them stable. We want to get them solvent. We want to get them in a positive attitude where they have a good living conditions. We can help them with get them pointed toward the VA, getting a HUD-VASH voucher so they can get a good living spot. So they're not having to live in their car or out the streets in a tent in the woods. So yeah, I love working for the Wounded Warrior Project. It's a great organization.
And you're going on 2 years with that coming up here. 2
years tomorrow.
And you've been working on this leadership book for how long? 15 years, you said?
Oh, I've had this. So they say leadership is caught is caught as much as it is taught. And there's another old saying that says, you teach what you most need to know. And leadership is one of those things I know that's something I need to know a lot of. Teaching, if you teach anything, you usually get better at it. So I've always been a proponent of teaching leadership and empowering the individual and taking like I said, that's why I love the drill field and SOI instruction and being a platoon sergeant, platoon commander, things like that, because you get that new raw material and you develop it, you make it better. And so I've had this manuscript.
Yeah.
I've had this manuscript, sketched out since before I retired in 2012. But I finally sat down and finalized it.
Yeah, and how do you feel about it? Because I haven't read the whole thing yet. I've read through it a couple. I think I'm into chapter 2. But
so just like you said,
it's awesome.
It's an easy read. It's an easy read. It was meant to sit and then put it into effect. Nothing worse than have the big old, thick book that takes take you 3 months, 4 months to read, and then you got to go back. Well, what was those first things I was supposed to implement?
Yeah.
The leadership rule. There's 5 basic rules of leadership. I didn't think anything of this up. This is how my mind took everything that I was taught about leadership through life, Marine Corps, and afterwards, and how my mind organizes it, processes it, and teaches it, and lead by it. So it's my 5 different rules. Like very, very simple, very straightforward rules. You don't have to have a master's degree to understand them. They're Barney style, so that we can all learn them. We can all implement them. So it's very easy reading, very easy. There's a whole chapter on just how to implement it. Very easy ways that you can implement it, and you can always go back over and reintroduce something. You can just use it and keep building on it. The more you learn, let's take a look at the first one. You have to care about people and desire to be a good leader. Okay. Yes. There's the old saying, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. You could be the greatest, smartest, brilliant individual in the world and be in a high leadership position. But if your people think that you are just using them to aggrandize yourself, they're going to turn you off, and they're just going to give the bare minimum to get by. But when people know you care, they will just go above and to get things done higher than you even expected, more than you expected, more than you asked them initially for, because you showed human dignity, concern, care. And when I say care, I don't mean carry. I don't mean, oh, he just made a major mistake, or he did something wrong and you're just going to cover it up. No. Carry means holding them accountable. Accountability is the cornerstone of leadership. You have to hold them accountable. You have to use whatever resources to get them to overcome their defects. You can't change another person. You can only influencing them and provide them a good example to follow, so that they change themselves, so that they raise their standards. Because if you can get all of the people in that little area of responsibility, if you can get all of them to raise their standards, it's going to magnify the performance level of the whole unit. It just magnifies on itself. When every individual is trying to improve themselves and do better and do something good for the organization, there's just no telling how good it can be and how much better it can be. It's kind of like the Marine Corps. You know how they say there's 10 types of people in any organization. 6 of them are basically just there, right? They're being drug along. There's the next 3 that are pretty good performers, and you want them around. And there's that one who is the top level performer that sometimes you feel you can't do without. But in the Marine Corps, everybody thinks they're that one person. They're that one out of 10. And that's what makes the Marine Corps so special. But that's what makes this leadership book so special, because if you can harness that concept in everybody's thinking and get them to raise their standards, the organization is just going to get so much better.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You got that passion, that great thing. Talk a little bit about your transition and why that was so important too. And talk about why that was such a, cool part about the book too. And what did transition do for you? Because I think it's really hard for any service member to transition, because again, you talked about, civilians don't understand our language a lot of times. They don't understand how to necessarily effectively treat us if we have to go to a civilian. But, through leadership and through guidance and support on our fellow veterans, because I don't know about you, but for me, I don't know what it's like not to have a veteran combat buddy. If you think you're just going to escape and do your own thing, you might be lost in the sauce for a while before you figure it out, but you're definitely going to lean on some other fellow veterans along the path, because someone's going to tell you how to make it to the next building over there in the VA. For one, that's the simplest way to put it, but there's so many things we lean on each other for. And talk about that, Mark.
Totally. So I think for me anyway, is that ego. I retired. I was a sergeant major of Marines. It was one of my highest goals in the Marine Corps, was to earn the rank, earn that title, earn that position of sergeant major of United States Marines. Some of my best mentors, my closest mentors were majors. And so I was just striving to do it, Then, so you're kind of like at the top of the heap. But then you go to retirement ceremonies or change of command ceremonies, things like that. And you're around these organizations. And then some of the sergeant majors and first sergeants and master gunner sergeants are now those people now used to be some of your Marines. They were under your charge for a while. So you go to these events, and then after the event, everyone's standing around talking to each other and everything, and then they get together, and then say the sergeant division wants to have a little powwow with all his staff NCOs about some real world things, Yeah. And they kind of look at you like, hey, it was good seeing you, Sergeant Major, but we got some real world things to do,
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to say it.
hey, I trained you, it's like,
Yeah.
I trained you. But that's all part of the thing where, you help develop them in some way, shape, or form. And
That's
now
right.
they're the ones doing the real world thing. They're the ones that have the watch, as they say.
Yeah.
And
They do
it is
grow
kind
up.
of if you don't check your ego and if you don't develop humility, that can get to you. And that's where a lot of veterans, you lose that sense of real world purpose. You're used to doing real world things, real world dangerous things. And now
That's right.
now
It-
you're,
and would you
now
say
you're
that
doing your own
doesn't
laundry and you're doing,
yeah, and that real world dangerous thing doesn't translate very well into civilian world. So you have to be humble
correct.
to realize that you're going to be working for the sergeant that you brought up, and the
Right.
first sergeant, and those guys have jobs that can give you a job, and
Totally.
those connections really matter, and you don't really know it, until you know it, and it's part of that leadership that you're talking about, that leadership
correct.
that's
And
you're
once again,
teaching
you
it, you're
gotta be
learning
humble.
it.
You gotta care about people, but you gotta be humble. You identify yourself as a leader, but you have to know your place, and what state of life you're at that time. You can't go into a new job and be the sergeant major. If I come in late and just try to get a cup of coffee, that's not going to go good at the workplace.
No. Hey, and I just want to throw this one point out that's really, and I call you up and I say Sergeant Major first before I'll even say Mark, because it's out of love and respect. It's not something that, once you retire, you don't have those titles necessarily, but just like me, I go by chief all the time, but people call me chief out of love, not out of something that I demand, but I still feel like I'm a chief. I'm still, doing everything that I did in the military, just in a different uniform of the minute, whatever that is. Warrior Built, PTSD Foundation, Wounded Warrior Project, whatever you got going on. That's the title that you got.
Correct. You still have to perform at that level that you've developed about yourself, but the execution or the display of it, is different. You're not in there yelling. You're not knife handing anybody. You're not, you're in a different state, different stage, but you still perform just like, the Marine Corps has the staff NCO creed. It says, I'm a staff NCO, member of the most unique group of professional military practitioners in the world. I am bound by duty to my God, my country, and my fellow Marines to execute the demands of my position to and beyond what I believe to be the limits of my capabilities. You still perform that way. You still perform at the top-notch level. If you walk into your work area and there's a spill on the counter, a spill on the floor, you don't say, oh, the janitor's going to get it later. No, you take care of it. You take the initiative, you get things done. You still perform at a level. You still are professional to everybody. You give them a good greeting in the morning. You've got to make contact. You got to care about people.
There's so many.
Once again, when you come in and you give that greeting to somebody, or somebody walks in and they got their head down and you kind of like get their attention and you say hello and a big smile, you might be the first and only positive thing that's in their life that day.
Yeah.
They might have just had the worst event last night on the way into work. Things that might have been going bad. You might be that first positive event in their life that will carry them through the rest of the day.
That's right. That's such a great point.
Get them to pass it on.
Exactly. No, it's great. I'm really honored to be your friend, and I know I get to see you, in social media doing some stuff, and that's such a really awesome way to stay connected. There's so much negativity on social media, so many other things that you can be involved in, but to be posting, positive things and to share it amongst your friends is super important. Just like this book, man. When I saw you had this book and all this, I want to share that. I want to enjoy the success that you're having and follow those pathways, because it's not my pathway. It's not, it's not Chef's pathway.
Yeah, it's
yours.
us.
It's each one of us each one of us has those pathways, but to get a leadership perspective from your book here, Validated Leadership, is going to be awesome to any veteran or any civilian that might pick that thing up.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, and that's what I did, especially right after I retired, while I was helping build that PsychArmor. I was doing consulting. I'd go into a company and I'd meet with the CEO, and I'd find out, okay, what have you been telling your organization time and time again that they're just not getting? It's not sinking in, right? And then when I talk to the whole group, I start taking that information and I start putting it into my lingo type thing and put it to them, so that now they're saying, oh, the boss isn't the only one saying it. You know, it's talking to your children. You can tell them and tell them and tell them. Goes on one ear and out the other. But then your friend or your brother or something, you know, some relative, their uncle tells them the same thing. And it's like it came from the burning bush. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
for some reason, they just can't take it from you. But yeah, I would go in there and so I would meet, like, first with the CEO, then I'd meet with everybody. Then I'd go back and talk to their managers, because this book is perfect for civilian organizations, because a lot of times civilian organizations, they'll take the best performer, right? Let's say a sales company. They'll take that best salesman, the guy who's just ringing in sales and making these huge commissions, and he's got his little route and he's got his schedule and he's happy and everything. They're like, wow, he's such a great salesman. Let's make him the sales supervisor or sales manager. Well, he doesn't want to be the sales manager. So they make him the sales manager.
And he failed.
And then he starts, he's not bringing in the big things. He's not getting those big commissions no more. He's not in his, he's in his comfort zone. He's not where he's the best. And so what's he do? He either quits or they fire him, because they never trained him.
That's it.
They never trained him. And once again, leadership is learned by observation, emulation, and experience. Okay. So, and everybody's a leader in some way, shape, or form, whether you're a father, whether you're an older brother, or older sister, whether you're, you run an event at your church, things like that. You're a leader in some way, shape, or form. These are basic rules that everybody can take, learn, and use. And like I like to say, I didn't think one of these things up. I learned all of this.
Yeah.
I learned it by observation, emulation, and experience.
Well, thanks a lot for sharing all this awesome information, a little bit about yourself too. And, obviously, knowing these organizations that you're part of too, it's so cool that you're doing it. And any final words and how people can get a hold of you? And like I always tell people, you can get a hold of him through me. And a shout out to Mike DeLeon and Brad Fight for their shout out.
I see Brad's chat on there.
Yeah. But
Brad's one of those indomitable spirit individuals out there who had suffered greatly in combat, overcame all of that, and now I think he's on his second book, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So
see, you're a sergeant major. You're a sergeant major with one book, and you got Brad Fight, who I think he served about 8 years. And he's got 2 books.
And I feel like a slacker.
Yeah.
But so my website's validatedleadership.com. It's being worked on right now, so there's some things about it. But you can grab the book on Amazon. That's the fastest way to get it, is Amazon. Grab the book on there.
And Coda Lowe, thanks for saying hi. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah.
Thanks for popping on. Hey, but that's awesome, Sergeant Major. And if somebody wants to get a hold of you, I mean, obviously the show notes have a lot of information out there, so you can get a hold of him in so many different ways. Obviously checking out the book, and Wounded Warrior Project, he's in there doing the financial things. So if you need that help, definitely.
Definitely. If you're a post 9/11 veteran and you're not signed up with the Wounded Warrior Project, you are wrong. Get signed up. It's free.
Hey, do you have to fight your knife hand sometimes, Sergeant Major? Like, I saw you go with the finger instead of the knife hand. It's like it's such an ingrained part of our lives as military.
you get into the talk, you get back into the mindset, and it just automatically comes out. It's that muscle memory.
There you go.
Well, that's what's cool about this podcast. It's it's a developmental piece of information for our veterans, our society. It gives you a quick look into how we might interact, because we feel like we're just here together, and it's just an awesome kind of esprit de corps, camaraderie, and just awesome stuff. So,
and it's important for veterans, like I said, have a place to go. I'm also on another podcast called the Lost Art Projects, Veterans Voices, and we're recording. So Andrew Cox, retired Master Gunnery Sergeant, he records these, and they're archived with the National Archives. So we need to get everybody on there scheduled to tell your story and get it archived, because it's important.
I'll get scheduled with.
Life
I'm going to be scheduled.
Important enough to live. It's important enough to record.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm going to get on that with you, Sergeant Major. I look forward to it. I know we talked about it.
Chief, it's once again, it's great to meet you. Chef, great to meet you also.
Mark. You know what, Mark? I learned in my leadership days that a good leader learns when to lead and when to follow, because there's a lot of times in a kitchen where if I just lead, then I'm not really learning. And to really learn, I need to follow sometimes. And I have this saying. It says, Confucius say, mind is like umbrella, only works when open. And I try to keep an open mind because it's so important. And, one of the things that's really important, you're a Sergeant Major, you had, having a platoon or a company underneath you, you've got different personalities that you have to deal with. And if you get the job done, then you've done your work for the day. You've accomplished something. And, I used to have 700 to 800 employees underneath me, and executive chef, we were feeding 32,000 people a day. That's like a small city. And being the executive chef of that, you got to know people, and you got to put trusted ones in. But while those trusted people have those positions, you're always looking to bring people up through the ranks too, just like you. You see the good ones, and you kind of nurture them along so that they will reach their potential. They will become the best they can be.
And Chef, there's a big part of that in my book. Talks specifically about what you were saying about developing those others. And it says in the book, no honorable person comes into work and says, I'm going to be as subversive and destructive as possible. No honorable person does that. But they might be having some bad life situations where they have that negative attitudes.
Yeah.
And so do they need to be inspired, or do they need to be chastised? They need to be inspired. And now with good counseling and inspiration, they're either going to raise their standards, which is going to help the organization, or they're going to seek employment elsewhere, which does two things. It helped the organization. The person who counseled them and tried to inspire them, they learned more about another way to do things and got some more experience. And that person who left, they might have left, but they will eventually realize they were treated with dignity and respect and fairness, and it might just have planted a seed for them to standards.
Sow your seeds. I always say that to my people that I train. Sow your seeds, because you're going to need them later.
That's right. Hey, thanks, Sergeant Major. I appreciate it. Hey, I'm going to show this book one more time, but you guys need to check it out and look it up. And if you want to follow up with Sergeant Major, let me know. We'll do that. Mark, thanks a lot, brother.
Then my email address is Mark, MARK, at validated-leadership.com.
Okay.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Mark.
Semper Fi, Semper Paratus there.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to get into a couple of event things that are going on, and I'm
a lot of things.
A lot of really cool things. And Chef, I know you got a chili cook-off coming up. We're going to talk about that.
Yep.
And I'm just going to talk real quick about an event that I went to last night, Vet Talks. Awesome. 2026, the second year that they've ran that. They ran it at the Leatherneck Club here in Las Vegas. It was definitely put together in such an awesome way. The speakers that were involved, and there was 8 of them, and I'm just going to go through them real quick. Revius Gill, Executive Director of Operation Battle Cry. He has a whole attitude of, live your happy life kind of thing, your happy triggers. And I thought that was really cool. Amber Joy Bonds, Soul Recon Retreats, and she's a breath work facilitator. She had deceit and affair type stuff, dealing with bodies that were getting jacked up, and she had an incredible story. Actually brought tears to my eyes. I never thought I would actually cry at one of these events, but it was cool. Travis Johnson, retired U.S. Navy flight officer, SCORE mentor. Good speech on his part. Louis Barreo, he was outreach coordinator, U.S. Vets, Las Vegas. Great story on his part, talking about how he helps the homeless out, and he helped a guy find some housing, and it took him a year to actually crawl into his own bed. He was sleeping on the floor on a sleeping bag, and it's just really incredible stories, and finally getting him his vet benefits and things like that. Steve Altman, owner and operator of Arizona Off-Grid Solutions. Guy had an awesome story. All over the place, wanted to be an actor, finally accomplished that, but he builds this off-grid compound that out there, and he did some really cool stuff. Ross Bryant, really cool, Executive Director of the Military and Veteran Service Centers at the UNLV. Incredible thing on his part. He had a great story on how he took over a program that was really falling apart at UNLV and created such a veteran communities for our veterans to have a place to kind of get some stuff done.
Yeah, we need to look him up.
Yeah, Alfred.
Did you talk to him about coming on?
I didn't, but I will.
I think we should.
It'd be really great
on our show. Yeah.
Alfred Brenner, Purple Heart recipient, author of Surviving with Grief. His dog, he was a dog handler, lost his dog Grief. His dog's name was Grief, and in an explosion that took place, really tossed him all over the place, and his dog didn't make it. So, and that was a dog that was looking for IEDs, and it was trained to do so. And just his story was a great, incredible story. And then Jacob, everybody knows Jacob Stitch Duran, boxer, Hall of Famer. And he's been in a couple of movies, Rocky, Creed 1, 2, and 3, just a whole bunch of stuff. And I got to spend some time talking to him. He may be on my podcast at some point, but shout out to all the guys that were behind the scenes. Thanks to Ghost out there at the Leatherneck Club.
Ghost.
And they had heck of a great taco, 4 tacos, and just some awesome stuff. And then Spec Ops Water was out there handing out waters in the cans. Those were pretty cool. But David Lorgan, he was one of the main hosts there. Jessica J. Lee D, Maria Mandalay or Zacco. I'm sorry, I'm butchering all these names. And then Tom Ghost Martin, which just an incredible thing. So the Vet Talks, and you can see Ghost up on the screen there, and Jessica, but she hosted the whole thing and did an incredible job. And I want to just say it was just great. I applied for the Vet Talks. I'm not known in the circle of these guys yet, but I look forward to hopefully making it on and telling my story in some way. But it was great to see these stories, because I don't think I have listened to enough storytelling from our military's brothers and sisters to really kind of hone my own story into an 8-minute little segment of incredible storytelling. The thing was it was a great overall event. And I would say, just next year to really go through it and really do some stuff. But I'm going to turn it over to Chef now. He's got all kinds of stuff to talk about, and I'm looking forward to you too, to brief all your good stuff.
Yeah.
Chef JB's Kitchen. Let's go.
Yeah. So what's coming up with the VTRC comes October. We've got a chili cook-off You can get a hold of us here. If you need an entry form, I'll have those up pretty soon. This is October 11th, Sunday, October 11th of 2026. You can enter your chili, anything you want to make. Anti-ISIS chili won 1 year. It was all pork, and that was when ISIS was still conquering part of the world. Or you can just come and enjoy. You pay, I think it's $5 or $10, and you get to sample all the different chilies. And the winners are announced at 4. The tastings 1 to 5, and then the winners announced at 4. You get a plaque, a really nice thing saying you won if you win. And if you need cookers, I have some little rashads that you can cook on. Some people bring like cut up stuff already, so they're not like chopping. But if you want to come and do it from scratch, that's okay. This isn't for like going for competition chilies and a $5,000 bite. We just go and have fun for the day. We have the rough draft. We have live music that day. They come and play and donate their time. And it's a great fundraiser for us here at the VTRC. So it helps with keeping the doors open and this podcast going and us reaching out to you as a community. So it's a good time.
Definitely, Chef. And you got a September 12th also up in Reno.
Yes.
We got the poker.
The gala, the Heroes Gala. It's a poker tournament at the Nevada Museum up in Carson City. It's a great place. It's like 3 floors. And if you want to play poker, come. Or if your wife plays poker, if your kids want to come, please bring them. They have a hunt, for scavenger hunt. Yes. And there's 3 floors, and the bottom floor in the basement used to be an old United States Mint where they printed all the different coins, and it still is operable. So you can see that kind of, and they just open all the doors to us. They give us the museum for the night. They realize that we collaborate with a lot of different Horses for Heroes, some different groups up there. It's just a really good time. I was there last year doing the event, and this year we're going to have poker tables if you want. I don't know if Brian has the flyers still. But
yeah, we'll put these flyers in for next week's show, so we'll be able to highlight a lot of these things.
Coming onto the website really soon, and we're working on that now. Or Brian's going to work on that. Thank God. Stitch Radio or
Sitch Radio.
Sitch Radio.
.com.
So Brian's a great guy, and he moved to Las Vegas to be with us. No, I'm
that's part of the reason. That's a good double stack right there.
Yeah, there you go. He met one of our friends and really liked her. So in fact, he got engaged. So
happy engagement.
He moved here, and great guy, and is going to start helping us out on some issues like our website, and of course he works on our show. He's the producer of our show, and great guy. So I really look forward to working with him as I do with you, Aaron. And that's how you grow. If you don't grow, you go. So we're growing.
That's right, Chef. And what's going on in the other things? We got the breakfast coming up for the honor flights.
November 11th, Saturday. We do about 500. We do a pancake breakfast, Pancakes for Patriots. Goes to take some of our senior veterans Washington, D.C. to see the memorials. I still work with St. Jude's Ranch, teaching workforce development for young adults in foster care, 18 to 22. And I just put in a brand new hydroponic. I didn't put it in. UNR put it in. And they're helping us teach the students how to do grow our own vegetables and in a hydroponic garden. So it's actually at the restaurant, and when you come, you can look at it. And that's at 806 South Rancho Drive, number 6. It's called the Blooming Bistro. We bloom young people up in life. My thoughts are like Mark. How we develop, how we train young people to accept more and be more, and that leadership, and it's a great thing. I enjoy doing that. I never woke up lately and said, well, what am I going to do today? I really don't look forward to today, and there's a lot of military people that do that, and veterans that do that. And I'm sorry to say that, but you got to have purpose. You got to have meaning. And I go to work some days and I deal with young people, and not every day is great, but most days, I float to my car. I don't even want my car. It's just so rewarding and so absolutely uplifting to me. I'm not uplifting them. They're uplifting me. So,
right.
And that's the great thing about leadership is, when it's working really great, all the way down and all the way back up.
No, that's something that's amazing, Chef. Thanks for sharing all that stuff.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
No, it's pretty much everything on my agenda. Look forward to the coming weeks. Like I said, I'd like to talk with the guy from UNLV. I do a lot of stuff at UNLV. They have a bistro there, and I've worked with the culinary department there quite a bit over the years. Taste the turkey there. I mean, it just goes on and on.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He was a tanker and has a whole bunch of tank history, and transitioned from his old tank to the M1 Grand and all that good stuff. So it was pretty cool. His story was epic as well. So I look forward to spending some time reaching out to these guys and getting them on the podcast to explain, their story a little bit more. Obviously they get more than 8 minutes, but the 8-minute limit was great because we had to go through so many stories last night.
Yeah. So. And you know what? Those are great events to go to, but if you keep them within a reasonable time, then it's a lot better. So the 8 minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah. Excellent.
Hey, but the other thing too, and I think the other one, the one guy that explained, Gil, he basically said, hey, trigger your happiness. And I think that's something that you were talking about, Chef, waking up every day and triggering your happiness. Hey, today's going to be great. But it's so often that we have so many things. And he talked, they talked about how, your day can look so miserable. And it came from another veteran that said, close your eyes and think about your bills. Think about, you got to do this and that, all these different things. And you got dust under your bed, and how much dust do you have under your bed? And I thought it was kind of a cool concept. Then he said, open your eyes. And he said, now think about it. Someone doesn't have a bed, and, someone doesn't have, someone that doesn't have a home, and they don't have bills, but they're, having a hard time. So there's always somebody that has it worse than you. And so that's it. Talk about triggering your happiness because of, being thankful and humble enough to accept all these cool things that you do have.
And it's your happiness.
It's your happiness.
And it's like you build up things. Oh, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. And then when it really comes down to it, what were you worrying about? It all got taken care of.
That's right.
I tell the young kids that all the time. Don't worry about today. Today will handle itself. Tomorrow's tomorrow. You don't have to worry.
Yeah, and I just wanted, the one last thing I want to kind of put out there before I bring Brian on to evaluate the program, because I just want to say, put this out there. One is I love your paths. I love to know the pathway. I love, having Sergeant Major on here and, I haven't talked to him in a long time. But, talked to him over the last week, just getting all this information and putting this stuff together. But to find his pathway, to find out he wrote a book, to do all of these things, it's great to know your pathway. So I would say, find some happiness, find your pathway and go with it, for one. And then the other thing is to reach out to a veteran that you haven't talked to in a long time. Just such an important piece that I think of. But I don't always apply it enough, because I have so many veterans that I talk to constantly, all the time, most of the time, throughout the week, the same guys that I talk to all the time. They're in my warrior groups. They're doing this, and that, but I need to reach out to some that I haven't talked to in a while. And I ask that you pick up your phone, because, it doesn't always happen, but you need to be in a place, and you don't have to be in a good place. You can be in a bad place, but let's take on the ability to have a conversation with somebody that's dealing with stuff, and just be a great listener, be a soundboard, be whatever, and find those resources that might help and adapt to their needs, whatever that might be. And there's plenty of resources on my show that I've had that you can reach out to and kind of grab a hold of and see what those are like. The PTSD Foundation is the one that I think of all the time. Guys that need to go there, we'll send them to Camp Hope for 6 to 9 months, no cost to them. Those are for the combat vets that need that kind of support. But there's all kinds of other organizations, other resources, other things that are out there for you, and grab a hold of that.
Yep.
And that's all I got for right now. I'm going to bring Brian on, and then we will sign off. Brian, hey, thanks a lot for coming. Thanks a lot for being here, pushing all the buttons. Thanks, brother.
What's going on, boys?
Here goes the evaluation. This is a live evaluation. So if you're a podcaster and you need some points, feed drops is his thing. Brian, I hope you keep feed drops kind of in the background. I know that you wanted me to drop that name off, but it's such a cool name, man. And Feed Drops is his own podcast where he takes about 5 minutes just to evaluate podcasts. And he puts a lot of positive information out there to either improve it. And these are fine-tuned podcasts. They're pre-recorded and sound is all dialed in and a whole bunch of good stuff. But Brian,
it was a fun show. It was a fun show to work on. One of the things is a lot of podcasters didn't want to be evaluated at that level.
Yeah.
But I really think that it helped podcasters that weren't evaluated, just listening to the episode, then listening to my critique and putting 2 and 2 together going, oh, I have that same issue. Let me improve upon it and, improve the production value of my show. But it's there. It's still available at your RSS feed. You can go back and listen to the work I did there. And yeah, I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. But as far as today's episode, Chef, would love to hear you more up front. But after the guest, you guys did a really good job at transitioning back and forth, talking about the events. That was pretty dialed in. I think you guys are finding your voice working together when it comes to the promotional aspect of what VTRC, Warrior Bill, Wounded Warrior, just all the groups you guys work with, man. That PTSD Foundation, there's so many of them. I can't keep them all straight. Yeah. Chief's business card looks like a freaking NASCAR.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to promote.
But it's all good work, man. Yeah, just a little more upfront, a little more back and forth. I really love the fact that, Chief, you had the experience of being at Wounded Warrior Battalion and living it, working it, and the interjection, the back and forth between you and Mark was great there in the ways, that battalion supports our wounded. That was really cool to hear from my perspective. So that was good, man. Other than that, keep crushing, man. Keep doing good for our veterans. Better and better. Your numbers are showing it. We went over numbers before the show. Mind blowing yesterday. And it's you getting out there talking about your show, off social media, in hand, shaking somebody's hand, talking about the podcast that blew your numbers out of the water yesterday. So both of you keep that up, and we will see you next week.
Hey, thanks,
All
Brian.
Right. Thank you, Brian.
Hey, as I as I think about, Mark bringing up the fact that he saw, the sands of Iwo Jima and it inspired him.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the time I was actually on Iwo Jima. I think it was the 75th anniversary of the landing on Iwo Jima. We made it out there, and I watched the sands of Iwo Jima for the first time on Iwo Jima. So it was a very honorable place to be, and taking this Navy corpsman, and as a corpsman, to look at these beaches, his tears in his eyes when he was sitting there just looking at the red beaches that, just the sands, because the sand there is red. It's a volcanic red beach.
Sand, yeah.
And you would think Mount Suribachi was this giant mountain, but when you look at it, it's just like this hill that's stuck up out of the ground. But it's pretty big, but it's not that big to the amount of thought process in my head of how big this mountain might be wasn't there. But it was cool. So it was cool to see Mark's inspiration from that, to find out, and I meant to bring that up during his talk, but just kind of slipped my mind. But I'm glad to talk about it right now. And we're going to finish it up. Chef, any last words from you?
Just, what's really important in leadership is empathy. And that's the ability to take criticism and excel, because, no man is an island. And that word just really sticks with me today. And talking to Mark, I see that he lives it. So that's excellent.
Definitely.
So, as always, I hope you eat well and prosper well, and bon appetit.
Thanks, Chef. Hey, till next time, signing off, Strength and Honor, out.
Yep.
The only way, and we need nothing more. The only way, together forever, that's for sure.